Hi, welcome to AMIGA Alive. Today we're going to install an M-Tec Mastercard SCSI controller into an AMIGA 1200. As always, it's recommended you watch this video from start to end before trying it yourself, so you know what to expect. No special tools are required, just a screwdriver to open up the AMIGA's casing and unmount the floppy disk drive, a sharp knife or small pliers, because we have to make a small modification to the casing. And as always, a pair of tweezers may come in handy. This is our AMIGA 1200. It has an AMIGA Power M-Tec 1230 accelerator board installed, which is the basis for the Mastercard SCSI controller. Of course, first of all, we have to open our AMIGA's casing. We remove the cover from the external expansion slot. We'll need this slot later for the Mastercard's external SCSI connector. We also remove the two screws attaching the floppy drive to the top casing. There is a third one, but it's only accessible from the inside. We'll remove that one when we get there. Now we can flip the top casing and the keyboard over towards the backside of the AMIGA. Be careful when doing so. There is the keyboard connection and front side LED cabling attached. This is the backside of the accelerator board. You can easily see the big connector for the SCSI controller. Let's take a look at the Mastercard SCSI controller itself. It's made up of a main board and a connector board for the external SCSI connection. And this is roughly how the Mastercard will be fitted into the AMIGA 1200. Again, you can easily see the Mastercard's big main connector. The external connector board will be placed below the floppy drive. Before we can mount the whole thing, we have to unmount the floppy drive. Remove the aforementioned third screw, loosening the floppy drive completely. Carefully put the floppy drive aside, there are still some cables attached. Now we can plug the Mastercard onto the accelerator board. This turns out to be a bit tedious, because there are no guides for the connector. Take a look at this picture. The alignment of the Mastercard's edge with the pins of the FPU may help you positioning it correctly. There are some resistor or capacitor arrays that have to fit precisely into the gap between the accelerator board's edge and the AMIGA's casing. Make sure they are not bent. Take a good look from all sides, so nothing gets damaged. When you are sure everything's in place, carefully press down the Mastercard onto the accelerator board. The external SCSI connector board more or less just falls in place. There should be no problems here. But to be able to remount the floppy drive properly, we need to make a little room for the connector board's cabling. It's quite stiff. There are two little supports for the floppy drive, which would make the cabling and casing bend when tightening the floppies and casing screws again. Remove the left one, below the cable, just the tip, by cutting or breaking it off. Yeah, I know it hurts a bit, but don't worry, it's just a tiny bit. The floppy drive will still be well supported and of course held by the screws. If you're a good AMIGAN, you may add a screw fixating the external connector board to the AMIGA's bottom casing, strongly holding the board in place. This Mastercard's installation is only temporary, that's why we don't add that screw and rely on the strength and stiffness of the connection cable. But if you want to keep your Mastercard installed permanently, it is of course recommended to add a proper screw. Well, that's basically it. Time to see if everything works fine. We set up our AMIGA so we can access keyboard and mouse. Or if you're really fearless, just reassemble it completely straight away. We hook up some SCSI device, in our case a CD drive. Make sure you have a SCSI ID set and remember it, and add SCSI termination to the end of your SCSI chain. Power everything up, SCSI devices first. If you use a CD drive, don't forget to insert some CD. An AMINET CD-ROM will do nicely. The Mastercard SCSI controller is auto-configuring and auto-booting, so there is no need to install any software. The new M-Tec SCSI device should show up using proper system tools. Added your DOS driver mount entry. In our case it's CD0. Enter the Mastercard's device name and the CD drive's SCSI unit number. We reboot our AMIGA to see if the device is mounted properly on system startup. There it is. Using our AMINET CD, we run a few tests accessing our SCSI device. Okay, this is looking good. Beautiful. This was AMIGA Alive. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next time.